Hi everyone, welcome to Search Online Academy. This is Ezekiel Chumana. Today I'm going to take you through this question. I have been asked this question by my fellow students, and then I decided to put a video on this question. So this question says that write a class named book that keeps a track of book objects such that the instance data contains the book's title and the author and a unique identification number, say ID, that starts from 1 for the first book object and is incremented by 1 each time a new book with at least the title specified is created. Okay, the required methods in the book class are as follows. Okay, listen guys, on this question you are being asked to create a project or a project, right? With the main class named the book, or with the book.java source file, and the main concept of this book is to manage the details of the book, like the author, the title of the book, and the ID, maybe it's the publication or just a unique identifier for that book. So they are required methods, Also, they are saying the book class must have this instance, the title and the author and the ID. And this instance we have to declare them outside the outside any board, but just inside the what? Inside the book class. And then you've got this method. We have 3 constructors. One without parameters that sets the title and the author to unknown and the ID to 0. I think we all know constructors, but to those who don't know constructors is just a special method. Yes, it's a special method which can be used to initialize the objects of a class, or the data members, the instance of a class. Let's say instance of a class, so all our variables or all our instance of a class, we give them some initial values through the constructors, and they can be invoked by the class automatically. It is I can say it is invoked automatically as we create an object. The moment that we create an object, then the constructor is going to be executed before any code get executed. So also there's something that you have to know about constructors. Constructors, they retain no type, like even void. They cannot return even void. So also it must have the name as the class. If the class is called book, also that method must be called book. I think that's all about constructors, and I think that's all that you have to know about the constructors. So also you need the setter methods for title and author, and the getter methods for title and author, the equals method. Okay, the setter and the getter methods, you have to know these things. The setter and getter methods are just methods that we use to retrieve and update the instance variables. Like the setter method, you can use it to set a value in a variable. The getter method, we use it to get or to retrieve a value from a certain instance or from a certain variable. So, and then the equals method that compares the current book object with another book object given as a parameter and returns true if both objects have the same title. Okay, we are going to discuss this when we reach at this point. the getInitials method that returns the initial letters of the author's first name and the last name if the author's name is known. Okay, like if we know the name of the author, then you have to return the initials, like the initials. Okay, let me give an example here. If we have a book with a getInitials returns the initial letters of, okay, it is going to return the initial letters like of the first name and the last name, and if the author's name is okay, so which means if you have a first name and the last name, so the first letter of the first name and of the last name are the one that we have, that this method have to return. Yeah, but it will return false if we assume that there can be at most 2 names and 1 surname separated by a single blank. Okay, yeah, so let's dive into our code, guys. Let's create our new project here. Let me do this. It's file, new project. Let me then next, let me call it assignment question 2. Assignment question 2. Here we have to call this class book. Yes, I'm going to say okay, done. Yeah, so we have successfully created our project with the public class or our controller class as what, as book. And then here we are being told that this class must have the instance data as the title, author, and unique identification number. So here we have to create this instance variable like this, string. Yeah, these are string variables, string title and then string author and then ID. I think it's an integer because if you see here it starts from 1 then going upwards, so it is going to be ID, and initially it must be equal to 1. I think that's the idea there, because it starts from 1. You can simply leave it like this. Then here the question goes to say we need 3 constructors, one without parameters, that sets the title and author to unknown and ID to 0. So let's have our constructor here. I have already told you that the constructor can only take the name as the class, the name of a class, but it must not have any return type here like void or int or what, and it does not have any return type. And then here we have told that without parameters, which means it is not going to take any parameter or any argument here. So in the next, it must set the title and author to unknown. So here we are going to use this keyword to reference to the current object of this class. Yeah. So this dot title must be set to unknown. Yes, this dot author must be set to unknown. Yeah, something like this. And our ID, okay, this dot id must be set to 0, just like this. Yeah, this is our first constructor, so we have remained with the other two constructors. Here it is saying one with a single parameter that sets, one with the single parameter here that sets the title to the given value as a parameter, sets the author to unknown, increments the sequence by 1, and sets id to this sequence number. Okay, so these are our requirements for the second construct. So this constructor must take one single parameter and sets the title to the given value as a parameter. So the value that we are going to get from that parameter, we are going to initialize it to the title, and then we set the author to unknown and increment the sequence or the id by 1. So we need another constructor here. Okay, this error is because we have already created this constructor. So here we have to put some arguments like string title, and then we are going to set our title to this variable or to our parameter title, and then we are going to set the author this author, we're going to set it to unknown and set our id to id plus plus. Why id plus plus? Let me use this dot. Yeah, id plus plus is like we are incrementing id, because here they are saying we have to increment the sequence number by 1 and then set the id to that increment to that sequence number, which means we have to increment id by 1. So this one is the increment of id, like id plus 1, then we set the value into this instance variable. I think that's all about the second constructor. Now we need the third constructor. We need the third constructor. On the third constructor, they are saying one with two parameters. Here we have what? Two parameters for title and author. We have two parameters for title and author, setting the corresponding instance data, which means we're going to set the title and author from these two parameters, and the id is in the second constructor. Okay, all right. So we are going to set id as in the second constructor, like what we have did here. So let's create this constructor. Let's create this constructor. Okay, yes. String title, and then author, string author. Yeah, it is going to take only two parameters, and then we use this keyword to reference to the instance of this class must be assigned to title, the variable that we have as a parameter. Then author must be initialized to author, and then this dot id must be initialized to id as we have done here. Then I think that's all about this point. This is the first constructor, and this is the second constructor, and this is the third constructor. And then what's the problem? And then okay guys, and then here, okay, I have to explain something here. How these constructors are going to be invoked, it depends with the object that you are going to create. If you are going to create an object without an instance here, this is the constructor which is going to be invoked on that object. If you are going to invoke if you are going to create an object with just one single parameter, obvious, this is the constructor which will be going to be invoked. And if you put two parameters when you are creating your object, then this is the constructor which is going to be executed. Why? Because it uses the concept of method overriding. So it will match the parameters with the parameters in the constructor here. I think that's all that you have to know about how these constructors are going to be invoked. So now I'm going to move on this point where we are going to have the setter methods for title and author. Here, just right below the main method, that's where we are going to put our setter method. And then here you have to know that our setter method must be a void, because it is not going to return anything. It is not going to return anything. So here is public void. Yeah, we can say it is static because we need it to be independent from the instance, so that we don't need any object. Okay, public static void or set title. Okay, and here the setter title must take at least one parameter. Why one parameter? Because with the setter method, what we want to achieve is to update the value of this variable title. So we are going to use this keyword. What's the problem? Okay, I think it's because of you, my friend. Okay, yeah. This dot title must be initialized to title. That's the setter method for title, and then for author again. So I can simply copy this just to save our time, and then I will paste it just right down here, and here I'll put author. Here I'll put author. Then okay, here is not title, it's author. And then on this point we need the getter methods for title and author and ID. These getter methods, we use them to retrieve the values, or retrieve the values of what? Retrieve the values from our variables, So here we go like this: public void no, this is not a void because it is going to return something. So if it is a title, we know that our title and author are strings, so it is going to return what? A string variable. So we have to use what? We have to use string, the string, not void, then get title like this, and then here it is not going to take any parameter. Yeah, then here we are going to say return this dot title. It is going to return the title just like that, and then we need the getter method for author. Come on, what's the problem? Oh. Okay. Oh. Okay. I need what? Okay. I need get author like this. Then it will return author. I need this one. Is not a string, but it must be an integer which returns the ID. So it must be get ID, then it must return the ID. I think that's all about this question for the getter method. Then here we go to this point where it says we need the equals method that compares the current book object with another book object given as a parameter, and returns true if both objects have the same title and author properties, and false otherwise, which means this method is going to take only one parameter, and this parameter is going to be an object of book, and then we compare it with the current object or with the current book. It's like we are going to compare two books, their title and their author. Then we see if they are equal, and if they are equal, it must return true, and if they are not equal, it is going to return a false. So here you have to do this. You have to create the equals method public, because it is going to return a true or a false. It is going to be a boolean then equals method like this, and it is going to take only one parameter, which is what? Which is an object of book. Let me say book, as this one is our object, our book object. And then here I'm going to create a boolean variable. Let me call it status and assign it to false like this. And then here I'm going to compare the values of title and author of this book object and the current title and author of this book object from this class, So I'm going to say if this dot author is equals to what? Equals to book dot author, which means author of this current class is a book class is equal to the object to the author of this book, and then if it returns true if they are equal, hence it can execute the code which will be inside this bracket, and then inside the if and remember the title and the author must be the same. So also this dot title, okay, let me maximize this, dot equals to book dot title, and then we have to say status now will be equal to true, which means if these things are equal, then we set status to true, then yeah, okay, see, then we have to return what? We have to return status like this, which means here we set this one to true, which means if they are all equal we return true here, but if they are not equal here, either the title and the author are not equal, then it will return false, because it is not going to set this variable to true. Yeah, I think that's the idea there for this point. Then here we have to go for this method called the get initials method, that returns the initial letters of the author. Here, mark this point. It returns the initial letters of the author's first name and the last name. If the author's name is known, okay, if the author's name is known, not equal to unknown, or not now, assume that there can be at most two names and one surname separated by a single blank. Okay, at most two names. Yeah, which means here it is saying we have to assume that you are going to have only two or less names and then one surname here. That's our assumption, separated by a single blank space, so that whenever we encounter a blank space, we have to take the initial of the next coming word, of the next coming word. Like for example, let's take, if this one was going to be this this is the first name, second name, and the surname, then whenever we counter this blank space, we have to take this one here, B, as our first initial for his or her second name, and then you have to take O as his or her first letter or initial letter for the surname, and then obviously we have to take also this C, so that we have C, B, O as the what, as the initials. I think that's the code that we need there. So how are we going to do this? Let's create our method first, called get initials, and it is going to return a string, and here we have to create a book object and test your methods, and then we test our methods. So here I'm going to create a get initials method, public string, then it is going to be get initials like this. This method is not going to have any parameter there, and here I'm going to create a string. Let me call it a string variable, which I'm going to initialize with a nothing, and then below that I'm going to take the first initial of the initial letter of the first name. Why? Because we are here saying I have to take the initial letter of the first name first, and then the second name and the surname. I'm going to use that concept of reading the blank space between these words. Yeah, so here I'm going to say also I need a string variable. Okay, string variable called initials, which I'm also going to initialize to this. And then now I have to say initials must be assigned to, I'm going to use a string dot, I'm going to use a function called the value of. This one will return the value, or it will return a string. Value of what? Of this dot. Remember, this is authors, so we need author there, like this. Oh, let me just maximize. Okay, then dot, I'm going to choose a method called Concurrent, which returns a character at a specific index. So I'm going to use index 0, which means if a string have got 5 letters, the first letter it will be at index 0 using this method, which is called Concurrent. And then after that, yeah, I'm going to create a for loop here with an integer I being initialized to 0, and I must be less than what? I must be less than our author dot the length of this instance, and then I plus plus, which means if our author have got a let me see, where's the problem? Is this expected what? Illegal set of variable I. Okay, here I have to put this one. Okay, integer I is equal to 0, and okay, which means if our author's first name and second name have got 20 letters, which means we will be going to loop this for loop for 20 iterations. Yeah, that's it. So here what I'm going to do is simple. I'm going to take the initial letter for our author's name and the second name and the surname whenever I encounter a blank space. So here I'm going to say if, yeah, let me check if there is another instruction, get initials and the last name. If the author's name is known, okay, first the author's name must be known, which is it must be not equal to unknown. Okay, so first I have to say if this dot author dot equals let me say unknown. Sorry, I have to put here author. Yeah, this is the author, the name of the author. Yeah, but here I have to put if it is not equal to, yeah, if it is not, this dot author is not equal to unknown, yeah, which means we will be knowing the name of the author. What we have to do here now, I have to say if this, if I have to say string dot value of what? of this dot author dot car at index what? At index I. Now dot equals to what? If this one is equal to a blank space, now I have to what? I have to do string concatenation. That's where I have to say our string s here must be equal to string dot value of this dot author here dot car at index what? At index I plus 1. Why I plus 1? Which means whenever we encounter blank space, we take the initial letter of the next word. That's why we say I plus 1. And then we terminate this. And then we say initials, this variable must be equal to initials, which means the content of initials, then dot concatenate with the string s, which means we are going to join these strings. That's the string concatenation, and then we initialize it back to initials. I think that's what. Then here you have to return what? We have to return initials like this. Yeah, I think that's all about this method. Yeah, I think that's all about this method. And then here we are being asked to create a book object and test our methods here. So which means we have to come here in our main method here and we create our book object. So how to create the instance, or how to create the objects of a class? You have to say book, let's say book one day must be equal to, use a new key, we use a new keyword, book, then like this, and here it is going to invoke this constructor, because I didn't put what? I didn't put some arguments or some parameters here. And if I put like here, let me say this book I've got an author's name called what? Ezekiel Shimano, like this, which means it is going to invoke what? Okay, this one, which is going to take, okay, it is only going to take the title of the book. Okay, here let me say I've put the author, the title of the book is Zoo, which means it is going to invoke what? It is going to invoke this construct. And then let me invoke my method like get initials, which means I have to say book one dot get initials, and then I'll turn it like this. And if I run this file, let me see the output. What is it going to be like? Okay, I forgot something. I have to say here, and I'll put this statement inside this print line. Why? Because this get initials is going to return a value, and then in order for us to see it here or to appear it here, it must be printed, to the console by this statement. So that's why I insert this one inside this method. So let me run this. Okay, you see it retains EC, which means the author is Ezekiel Chimana, which means it retains E is our initial and C is our initial letter for the surname. I think that's all, guys. So I have to say thank you for watching this video. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is my little brother, you know. So thank you, guys. Meet you on the next video.